Still on the fees must fall conversation, last year government froze free increments on university fees. However, in an estimate by Universities South Africa, if government announces another 0% increase this year, the state will need to cough up about 2.5 billion rand to finance this. Well, can South Africa afford another 0% increment or free education? To perhaps paint a picture with regard to our options available here is Christie Viljoen, Senior Economist at KPMG, South Africa. Christie, thank you so much for your time. Very briefly, before we do get into the specifics, is free education a model that South Africa can pursue?
The easy answer would be yes. The difficult answer is yes, we can do this, but over a long period we can plan for this. We can work towards getting the finances for this. Unfortunately, it's not something that students would be very happy to hear. They obviously want to see it now, but this is only something that is going to be possible over the very long term.
Christie, David Williams here. We have quite an interesting model in South Africa. There's the government subsidy, there's the student fees, which make up about 20% of university costs, and private donations, fundraising, and so on. How can that model be changed if we're going to get closer to free education? Obviously, they want to reduce the amount of fees paid by students, or do they?
Yes, that is the idea, to reduce the amount contributed by students. That basically leaves the two other options for financing, that's government funding and private funding. And at the moment, the government is quite involved in trying to sort out how exactly this can be achieved, both in the short and the long term. Universities will need to engage both with government and the private sector to get this done if they are faced with a situation where students are unwilling to pay tuition fees. If we say we plan over a 10 or a 20-year period to reduce the amount that students pay, the universities will be dependent on both the public and the private sector. We can't really ignore anybody else in this. It's going to be a combined effort.
Let's start off by taking a look at government's efforts so far in their proposition. Naturally, tax is an area that we look at for potential income for fees must fall, perhaps. Is this an option, seeing personal income taxes increase?
What we've seen in our research, when we look at countries around the world that offer free primary or free tertiary education, their tax rates are already on average on the same level as we have in South Africa. Raising tax rates, it's an option, definitely. 2 years ago, the government increased some personal income tax rates to improve its revenue situation. So yes, theoretically it's possible. However, if we are willing to increase tax rates to finance tertiary education, a lot of other priorities might have to be climbing into the line first. So for example, if we are, trying to improve education in the country, shouldn't we spend more on primary and secondary education? Shouldn't we spend more on healthcare or improving transport? So yes, it is possible, but then it doesn't mean that tertiary education is entitled or the most deserving to get the money from higher personal income tax rates.
Christie, what can we learn from other countries, developing countries, developed countries, on how to manage this? I mean, there must be similar pressures in many other countries.
Yes, there are definitely emerging economies like Turkey and Brazil and Mexico who have been able to provide a significant amount of tertiary education without charging fees to students. We've also seen this in developed countries like France, many of the Scandinavian countries that we often hear offer free education, free healthcare. The problem, again, is that this was introduced over the long term. It was implemented as a long-term priority, and as years went on, government budgets were adjusted to have an increasing increment given to tertiary education. So that when they got to the point where tuition was completely scrapped, tuition was already a very, very small part of university fees. So that is, again, as I indicated earlier, the only real solution is to think very much long-term. Obviously, the students at universities at the moment want short-term answers, but this is, unfortunately, a long-term process.
Clearly no easy solutions being implemented here. Thank you so much to Christie Viljoen, Senior Economist at KPMG, South Africa.
And that's it from Closing Bell South Africa for today.
Interesting conversations that we've certainly had, and many of these can be viewed again on our website, CNBCAfrica.com.
Closing Bell West Africa, right after this.